What's up, everybody? Time for the game theory video. If you like the videos, like, sub, comment, share, support the channel. If you want, I appreciate it. Thanks. Today we have this ancient hieroglyphic of amazing artistic ability. Oh, Jesus, Bob, just don't try to pee-pee again, I swear. So I'm going to talk about Street Fighter V and what I would have done for chip kills in Street Fighter V. And I've made a video about this before, and of course I've talked about this before, what I would have done for the game, just in general. But you know what? Sometimes I like drawing silly pictures just to do it, I guess. And I recently made that video talking about chip damage in fucking Dragon Ball Fighter Z, right? So Street Fighter V, this is what I would have done for Street Fighter V, since there's no real chip kills in the game unless you do a super, right? And I always say chip is important though, like to kill the guy, because it actually makes it exciting. So if we got this situation right here, right? We got a dude throwing a fireball, right? If the dude's about to die, you know what I mean? That's actually exciting. Like if you think about, just even think about not just as the player, if you think about as the consumer, just the person, the audience watching the match. You know, a lot of times if you were to think about a video game as like a sport or something, maybe you're team Fireball, Dragon Punch Trap, maybe you're team this guy, whatever. Let's say the team that you like, the character you like is dying, right? And if they can't take any more block damage, guess what? That's exciting for you. Even if you're not playing, because you want to see how will they avoid this, right? That's one of the things that unfortunately is lost in a lot of newer games. Like just a character throwing a fireball and you're like, oh fuck, is he going to be able to jump in time? Does he have a invincible move like a Dragon Punch to get through it? Just think about those situations of like Dragon Punch versus Dragon Punch, both getting out of like, you know, saving themselves from like the block damage, whatever. Those are kind of fun, quirky, you know, those are fun moments, right? A character trying to save himself from dying at the end of the match because block damage will kill. Now they got rid of block damage, let's say, because the game, you know, catering to a newer audience that, oh, we don't like block damage because we don't like the idea that we can die. You know, besides fucking, you know, let's say, you know, supers can kill you in Street Fighter V. But so here's what I would have done, right? Because you got to throw a new spin, a new perspective on every game. Every game needs a new perspective, right? And I'm just thinking about Street Fighter V, just for what it's worth. I'm thinking about Street Fighter V when it first started off. Let's not get into all the different upgrades of the game, how the game changed. But when I first saw Street Fighter V, I said what I would have done is the only move that guard braked in the game when the game first came out was Ryu's Charge Up Hadouken, right? I don't think it was called Denjin Hadouken. It's called something, was it like Raiko Hadouken? I don't remember what the fuck they call it. Whatever the case. It was the only move that actually guard broke you. And I was like, that's so silly that they actually have this animation of your character being guard broke just for one move. It seems kind of silly. It seems like a waste. So thinking about the system, I was like, you want to know what I would do? If your character has no life left, they have no life left, the next hit kills, they got this little sliver right there, right? You know what I would have done? I would have said that every special move guard breaks you instead of killing you. And I would have made it, because I said this game is going to be so pre-planned and all this kind of stuff. I would have said that it is always, every time, no matter what, when the special move guard breaks you, it leaves you at just like a frame where the next hit is not guaranteed, right? Now you might think this seems convoluted, but let's look at a game like, say, fucking, you know, let's look at, say, Dragon Ball Fighter Z and how pre-planned Dragon Ball Fighter Z was. And I'm like, you already got these moves that are so pre-planned that I can do like a Gogeta knee move where I'm flying across the screen and say it's +0 if it hits at the very beginning, right? But even after he flies across the screen, you're like, oh man, it hit like 5 frames later. Do you think he's going to be +5? No, actually he's +0, right? Dragon Ball Fighter Z actually added in a lot of these kind of moves, and you know, not every move, but a lot of moves where even if you space them and the move hits later, it hits meaty, it didn't matter because the move was so pre-planned and pre-programmed that it always had to do this sort of block stun. So that's what I would do to keep this sort of excitement. When I saw Street Fighter V being made, I would have said every special move is programmed that if the guy will die from the next hit, it is pre-programmed that they are always one frame away from something that's guaranteed to kill them. Now, again, you might think that's weird. It's like, oh, well, what if like Bison does a Psycho Crusher or something and it hits late? Well, we've already given the fucking Dragon Ball Z example. You know what I mean? Moves are very pre-programmed nowadays. You could have it like, well, I guess you're just gonna have to pre-program however many moves it hits. Maybe that Psycho Crusher hits for 15 or 20 frames when he's flying across the screen. Well, if it hits on this frame, it's this. If it hits on this frame, it's this. If it hits on this frame, it's this. But it always, no matter if you block it, you are at, minus whatever it is, 3, let's say, and your fastest move for the character is up 4. You are always one frame away that the next move is not guaranteed. Now, what would this actually do? And of course, there's probably multiple hit moves, but what would this do? This actually still keeps the excitement, and it's still of like old school Street Fighter to an extent, right? Because guess what? You're like, well, fuck. I don't want to just keep blocking because the guy's always going to be at the advantage. You know what I mean? So if he does this, like if he does like let's say if the guy's waking up and I do a dragon punch right next to him, if he blocks it, you know what I mean? Guess what? Normally the dragon punch would be punishable, but guess what? Now you're actually, let's say, for sake of our argument, you're -3. And so he just starts his normal pressure again. Whatever it is. He does whatever kind of special move. I do my tiger knee, whatever the fuck it is, right? You're always at the minus. So you don't want to be in this situation. But you're never automatically dead because the last hit cannot kill you. Now you might say, okay, well, what about something like a fireball? Now, a fireball would be a situation, and I got you here. Don't worry. I'm already too smart for you. Like, well, Clayton, what about a fireball? Because your guy's already recovered. You're like, well, if I throw a fireball here and I block it, and then that means Ryu's going to be able to walk up and then hit me because, you can't actually make Ryu go back into blocks then or something like that. Well, guess what? If the fireball is actually programmed like that, that means the fireball is hitting pretty far away. And guess what? You could have probably just jumped straight up over the fireball, right? Probably, you know what I mean? Now you might say, oh, well, what if I threw a fireball and, something like, oh, well, the character was like, it was as a media attack or something like that. And I'm like, okay, sure, there's probably going to be some theoretical checkmate situations, but the idea is that, generally speaking, nothing is guaranteed to kill you. And there's still that excitement of, though, that I don't want to block. And if I block, well, guess what? I'm going to get guard crushed. Like, I'm at a tremendous disadvantage for blocking. And there could be weird things. Guess what? Maybe Ryu, you wake up and he does a dragon punch and you're like, oh, fuck, I block it. And then you're at -3. You're like, what the fuck do I do? Do I just block? Do I try to do something? And then maybe Ryu just does another dragon punch. And then, oh, boy, I blocked. You know what I mean? And I'm guard crushed again or something like that. But nothing is actually guaranteed. And what I could say for this situation, though, to like save yourself or something like that, is you could say there is something like, while you are guard crushed, if you have meter, you're building up your alpha counter. So maybe you can alpha counter out of a guard crush. Even though you're in guard crush, if you have V trigger, I don't even remember how you alpha counter. It's been so long since I played Street Fighter V, but did it take super or V trigger to alpha counter? I don't remember. It's been so long, but you could say that could be a caveat. When you are guard crushed, you can alpha counter to knock the guy away. Just, you know what I mean? But you see what I'm getting at? You're adding something new you're adding a new perspective on the idea of fighting games, right? And you're keeping that situation of like, or this idea that, the new player, he doesn't want to feel like he's automatically dead, that he can't block anything, right? So now he can still block, but there's this like sense of tension because you still want to use your invincible moves to dragon punch through a fireball. You still want to jump up through a fireball. You don't want to block it. But even if you do, you're screwed, but you're not dead. And there's still that excitement, like, oh, he got guard broke. Oh, fuck, he's going to start his pressure. Or, oh, maybe he's just going to do another special move again. Like, oh, fuck. There's a sense of panic without actually being dead. And that's exciting for both the players and the consumer and the audience watching it, right? And again, games are so pre-planned now and pre-programmed that if you have moves that can hit late like that, guess what? You're just going to have to pre-program, oh, well, it's going to be plus this here, it's going to be plus this here, blah, blah. You're like, oh, that's such a clusterfuck. But at the end of the day, after you program it, you already know you're always going to be minus this, generally speaking. Unless it's a fireball, there might be some situations, right? But you're in these situations and it's like, oh, okay, I always know it's going to be this. Simple. You've added a new perspective to a fighting game. Done. You don't automatically kill the new player. And now that's why, and I did say, again, I said for fucking something like, what is it? Not the newer renditions of Street Fighter V, because I know Street Fighter V, as it went on, it toned down Dragon Punches. They're not even invincible startup. And, so of course, this is why I said I'm thinking more so of Street Fighter V, and Street Fighter V still had more invincible moves right at the beginning. But anyway, that's what I would have done for Street Fighter V when Street Fighter V was being made. And I said this before. I made videos about it. And just thinking about chip damage, all that kind of stuff. That's how I would have had chip kills in Street Fighter V. If you like the videos, like, subscribe, comment, share. Support the channel if you want. I appreciate it. Thanks. The end.